Yeah, I want to talk about the trail. I also want to, so the big question we got from people is why it stops at the Denver Country Club.
But it doesn't stop.
Or why it doesn't follow the river at the Denver
Well,
Country
that's...
Club. Yeah. That was a matter of...
Because I know that when you look at streams like this is public.
Yeah.
And as the stream, as Cherry Creek meanders through the country club, theoretically, you're supposed to be allowed to walk either right up the middle of the stream or right up the side, but it's the Denver Country Club. I mean, you're not going to win that fight.
Yeah.
And so we went up and around it and made the turn, come back down to Cherry Creek, and then underneath again, and then we stay on that all the way to Cherry Creek Reservoir.
Oh, I'm all set.
You good? Great.
You stay right there, Fred. Steve, you take a couple of steps. There you go. All right, I'm all set.
Fred, let's just look at me. Forget the cameras here. I'll ask you the question that we got from people. I want to get into some of your history, but let me ask you the question right out. You designed this bikeway. Why does it diverge from Cherry Creek at the Denver Country Club? Why not keep it along the creek the whole way, even through the country club?
Well, we looked at what our options were to go. We'd have to cut the fence, which would be a security problem for the Denver Country Club, and they certainly weren't going to be in favor of that. And we knew that if we just went up around the corner of it there and then stayed on the outside of the country club, up First Avenue, make the right on University, go back down to Cherry Creek, underneath University, and then we're right back on it again. At the time, that was never a big issue. I knew I could work it out, and it's the way it is today. So for bicyclists to all of a sudden have access through the country club, that wasn't going to be possible. So,
do you think, did that have something to do with the nature of this project? I know you were just telling me that you were kind of like a zealot. You were the bike guy in a car world. Did that have something to do with that? Or was it just something you just didn't think to do?
Well, keep in mind, literally this year, it was 50 years ago that I did the Denver Bikeway plan. And we didn't have e-bikes and da-da-da-da-da. I was just trying to figure out a way to efficiently get cyclists down the Cherry Creek corridor and into downtown Denver with the ramps and the steps and the different access points. And that little corner at the Denver Country Club was nothing big deal to deal with. So,
wasn't like a thorn in your side or anything. It wasn't
No.
like, what are we going to do there?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No.
Tell me about your history with this. When did you get hired by the city? What were you hired to do? And then how did this all come to be?
Well, I have a master's degree in urban planning. I came out here in 1971. I was hired by the Denver Planning Office to be part of the 1976 Winter Olympics. And I was on a couple of the different design groups for that. And as you remember, perhaps, Dick Lamb had everybody so worked up into such an emotional froth about why Colorado didn't need the Olympics that pretty soon I and most other Coloradoans voted no on the referendum, and I voted myself out of a job. However, at the time, I was the only person in the entire Denver Planning Office that rode their bike to work from my apartment in Glendale to downtown Denver. I wasn't trying to, it wasn't a cause for me or anything. That was an efficient way for me to get around, and my wife could have the car. So my boss came to me and said, "You're the only one who rides his bike to work. Can you do something to help me? Because Mayor McNichols is all over me right now about the pressure he's getting from bicyclists." So that began my odyssey on developing the Denver Bikeway Plan, which was the first plan for any city of any size in the United States. And we just pioneered a lot of techniques, and we developed a whole system of bike lanes, bike paths, parking facilities. I wrote the manual for the Colorado State Motor Vehicle Department for bicyclists. I've written 2 books on bicycling. It was my life for 9 years. It was crazy. And so this path was built long after I left the city, but it's exactly according to the design that I had in my report. And at the time, they thought $750,000 a mile was way too much to spend on bicycles. But by the time they built this, it was over $1 million a mile. So, but as you can see, cyclists love it. They get down in here and they can ride all the way down to the confluence and all the way to Cherry Creek Reservoir and never have to deal with traffic or a light. So,
what do you think of what ended up, I mean, obviously this is a beautiful piece of infrastructure. All the rest of the bikeways around town, do you feel that that fit your plan, and does it feel comfortable to you, and what might you change about it in today's world?
No, the bike paths and the bike lanes that I planned back then, many of them are in existence today. If anything, it's the age-old conflict between bicycles and cars. And now we have e-bikes. We didn't have e-bikes when all this was planned out. So it's everybody being aware and a little bit more observant. And bicyclists need to be more observant of traffic laws. Every time I see a bicyclist just whip through a stop sign, that bothered me back then. It still bothers me today. If you want facilities for bikes, then behave like a responsible person on our streets. When you're on our paths in the parks, you can stay to the right and ride as fast as you want and all the rest of it. But it's still education and awareness.
You said you were a zealot back then. I'm curious about that. What made you a zealot?
Well, I believed in bicycle commuting so strongly, and I still do. It's a wonderful, particularly in Denver. You can ride, the number of days that you can literally not ride your bike to work, you could probably count on two hands. The rest of the time, what a wonderful climate and our topography. Everything is perfect for riding your bike to work. And now with e-bikes, you can ride your bike and not get to work and be dealing with a lot of perspiration and everything else. I used to pack extra clothes on my bike, and when I get to work, I'd change my shirt or whatever, which wasn't a big deal at all to me, because it's Denver and I can ride my bike to work. I mean, this is fantastic.
What else do I want to ask you? I mean, do you think exploring a change to that bikeway is a good idea? I know I just talked to somebody from the Denver Post who's advocating, hey, let's finish the trail and run it through the golf course.
Personally, Steve, I don't think that's ever going to happen. All right? You would have to provide a fence on both sides of the creek from Downing all the way up to First Avenue, which from a aesthetic standpoint would really not look good at all in that golf course. I think you have to just leave it alone. We made the transition at Downing up around First Avenue. I don't think there's an issue with that anymore. Sure, from an ideal standpoint, that's true, but from a practical standpoint, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Tom, what am I forgetting?
I know, I feel like we're talking to the man who started it all.
I know, this is pretty cool.
We got you cornered. You can't go anywhere. What else should we add? Anything else you want to say?
You know what? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Tell me more about the pressure at that time. I think a lot of that sounds like today, where you're getting tremendous political pressure from people who are outside of cars on the mayor. I think he's now got a promise to build like 150 miles of bike lanes in the next few years, something like that. What was the pressure like back then? I mean,
well, it was organized. This was a group called Bicycles Now, and that was made up of professional people, doctors, attorneys, oil people, people who worked downtown, worked at the hospital complex at 9th and Colorado, worked in Cherry Creek. It was the main business nodes around the city that we tried to hook up with bike lanes, bike paths, so that and good maps, so that anybody that wanted to use their bike for commuting purposes, it's not some barrier. Here's the map, here's how you do it, here's how you ride safely, here's the manual. put all those pieces together, and you should be able to do it. There was a lot of pressure on Mayor McNichols then. I mean, there were guys that showed up at his office in the morning and said, wait a minute, we ride our bike, we're not polluting, we're not taking up a lot of room. Why don't you provide facilities for us? Why is it 99% of it for automobiles and buses? Do something for the bicyclists. And it got to the point that they had enough in their mass of Bicycles Now membership that he had to do something to satisfy their demands. And so that's where I walked into the picture. Right time at the right place for me.
You were the bike guy too.
I was the bike guy. We had conferences here in Denver on the design. People came from around the United States to see what we were doing. I would chair the conference and tell them, here are the things we did right, here are the things we did wrong, here are the lessons you should learn. Don't do this, but do it this way. It was, and therefore I was labeled in some camps as like, wow, that guy's over the top. This is all he can think about. Don't talk to him.
You had people walking to the other side of the street?
I did, because they thought he's going to come over here and scold me for why I'm not riding my bike to work, which I did. I admit, I did.
Great. Thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Steve.